Hello, welcome to day 125 of the Daily Bread. We'll be reading Numbers chapter 19, 2 Kings chapter 9, Psalms 121, Proverbs 4, and from the book of Acts chapter 21. We'll be reading the Scriptures 2009 version, Numbers chapter 19 on page 162. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe and to Aaron, saying, This is the law of the Torah which Yahweh has commanded, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, that they bring you a red heifer, a perfect one, in which there is no blemish, and in which a yoke has never come. And you shall give it to Eleazar the priest, and he shall bring it outside the camp, and shall slay it before him. And Eleazar the priest shall take some of the blood with his finger, and sprinkle some of the blood 7 times towards the front of the tent of appointment. And the heifer shall be burned before his eyes. He burns its hide, and its flesh, its blood, and its dung. And the priest shall take cedar wood, and hyssop, and scarlet, and throw them into the midst of the fire burning the heifer. And the priest shall then wash his garments, and shall bathe his body in water, and afterward come into the camp. But the priest is unclean till evening. And he who is burning it washes his garments in water, and shall bathe his body in water, is unclean until evening. And a clean man shall gather up the ashes of the heifer, and shall place them outside the camp in a clean place. And they shall be kept for the congregation of the children of Israel, for the water for uncleanness. It is for cleansing from sin. And he who gathers the ashes of the heifer shall wash his garments, and is unclean until evening. And it shall be a law forever to the children of Israel, and to the sojourner who sojourns with you. He who touches the dead of any human being is unclean for 7 days. He is to cleanse himself with the water on the 3rd day, and on the 7th day he is clean. But if he does not cleanse himself on the 3rd day, then on the 7th day he is not clean. Anyone who touches the dead of a human being and does not cleanse himself defiles the dwelling place of Yahweh, and shall be cut off from Israel. He is unclean, for the water for uncleanness was not sprinkled on him. His uncleanness is still upon him. This is the Torah when a man dies in a tent. All who come into the tent and all who are in the tent are unclean for 7 days. And every open vessel which has no cover fastened on it is unclean. Anyone who in the open field who touches someone slain by a sword who has died, or as a bone of a man, or a burial site, is unclean for 7 days. And for the unclean being they shall take some of the ashes of the heifer burnt for cleansing from sin, and running water shall be put on them in a vessel. And a cleansed man shall take hyssop, and dip it in water, and shall sprinkle it on the tent, and on the vessels, and on the beings who were there, or on the one who touched a bone, or the slain, or the dead, or the burial site. The clean one shall sprinkle the unclean on the 3rd day, and on the 7th day, and on the 7th day he shall cleanse himself, and shall wash his garments, and bathe in water, and shall be clean in the evening. But the man who is unclean and does not cleanse himself, that being shall be cut off from the earth, cut off from the assembly, because he has defiled the set apart place of Yahweh. Water for uncleanness has not been sprinkled on him. He is unclean. And it shall be a law for them forever. And one who sprinkles the water for uncleanness washes his garments, and the one who touches the water for uncleanness is unclean until evening. And whatever the unclean being touches is unclean, and the being who touches it is unclean until evening. Moving over to 2 Kings chapter 9. And Elisha the prophet called one of the sons of the prophets, and said to him, Gird your loins, and take this flask of oil in your hand, and go to Ramoth Gilead. For you shall go there, and look there, for Judah, son of Jehoshaphat, son of Nishim, and go in, and make him rise up from among his brothers, and take him to an inner room. And take the flask of oil, and pour it on his head, and say, Thus said Yahweh, I have anointed you sovereign over Israel. Then you shall open the door, and flee, and do not wait. So the young man, that prophet, went to Ramoth Gilead, and came in and saw the commanders of the army sitting. And he said, I have a message for you, O commander. And Judah said, For which one of us? And he said, For you, commander. And he rose up and went into the house, and he poured oil on his head, and said to him, Thus said Yahweh, Elohim of Israel, I have anointed you sovereign over the people of Israel, over the people of Yahweh, over Israel. And you shall strike the house of Ahab, your master. And I shall avenge the blood of my servants, the prophets, and the blood of all the servants of Yahweh at the hand of Jezebel. And all the house of Ahab shall perish, and I shall cut off from Ahab all the males in Israel, both those shut up and those left at large. I shall give up the house of Ahab, like the house of Joram, son of Nebat, and like the house of Bashan, son of Ahib. And the dogs are going to eat Jezebel in the portion of Israel, with none to bury her. Then he opened the door and fled. And Judah came out to the servants of his master. And one said to him, Is there peace? Why did the madman come to you? And he said to him, Do you know the man and his talk? And they said, A lie, reveal to us now. So he said, Thus and thus he spoke to me, saying, Thus said Yahweh, I have anointed you sovereign over Israel. And they hurried, and each one took his garment and put it under him on the top of the steps. And they blew up with the shofar, saying, Judah reigns. And Judah, son of Jehoshaphat, son of Nishim, conspired against Joram. Now Joram had been guarding Ramoth Gilead, he and all Israel against Hazael, sovereign of Aram. But sovereign Joram had returned to Israel to recover from the wounds with which the Arameans had stricken him, when he fought with Hazael, sovereign of Aram. Judah now said, If this is your desire, let no one leave or escape from the city to go and make it known in Israel. And Judah rode in a chariot and went to Israel, for Joram was laid up there. And Ahaziah, sovereign of Judah, had come down to see Joram. And a watchman stood on a tower in Israel, and he saw a company of Judah. And as he came, and said, I see a company of men. And Joram said, Get a horseman, and send him to meet them, and let him say, Is there peace? And the horseman went to meet him, and said, Thus said the sovereign, Is there peace? And Judah said, What have you to do with peace? Turn around and follow me. And the watchman spoke, saying, The messenger went with them, but is not coming back. Then he sent out a second horseman who came to them and said, Thus said the sovereign, Is there peace? And Judah answered, What have you to do with peace? Turn around and follow me. And the watchman spoke, saying, He went up to them and is not coming back. And the driving is like the driving of Judah, son of Nishim, for he drives madly. Then Joram said, Hitch up. And his chariot was hitched up. And Joram, sovereign of Israel, and Ahaziah, sovereign of Judah, went out, each in his chariot. And they went out to meet Judah and meet him on the portion of Nahob the Yisraelite. And it came to be when Joram saw Judah that he said, Is there peace, Judah? But he answered, What peace, as long as the whoring of your mother Jezebel and her witchcraft are so many? Thereupon Joram turned his hands around and fled, and said to Isaiah, Treachery, O Isaiah. And Judah drew his bow and struck Joram between his arms, and the arrow came out of his heart, and he sank down in his chariot. And Uhi said to Bidgar, his officer, Take him up and throw him into the portion of the field of Nahob the Jezreelite. Remember how you and I were riding together behind Ahab his father, and Yahweh lifted up his pronouncement against him. Have I not seen the blood of Nahob and the blood of his sons last night, declares Yahweh. And I shall repay you in this portion, declares Yahweh. And now take up, throw him on the portion according to the word of Yahweh. And Isaiah said, sovereign of Judah, saw this and fled up the way to Beth Hagam. And Uhi pursued him and said, Strike him too, in the chariot, at the ascent of Gur, which is by Yiblam. And he fled to Megoli, and he died there. Then his servants conveyed him in the chariot to Jerusalem, and buried him in his burial place with his fathers in the city of David. And in the 11th year of Joram, son of Ahab, Ahiah began to reign over Judah. And Judah came to Israel, and Jezebel heard of it. And she put paint on her eyes, and adorned her head, and looked through a window. And as Judah came to the gate, she said, Is it peace, Zimri, killer of your master? And he lifted up his face to the window, and said, Who is with me? Who? And 3 eunuchs looked down to him. And he said, Throw her down. And they threw her down, and some of her blood splattered on the wall, and on the horses he trampled her underfoot. And he went in, and he ate and drank, and said, Go now, see to this cursed one, and bury her, for she was a sovereign's daughter. So they went to bury her, but all they found of her was the skull, and the feet, and the palms of her hands. And as they came back and informed him, he said, This is the word of Yahweh, which he spoke by his servant Elijah, the Tishbite, saying, In the portion of Israel, dogs are going to eat the flesh of Jezebel, and the course of Jezebel shall be as a dung on the surface of the field in the portion of Israel, so that they do not say, This is Jezebel. Psalms 121 on page 719. I lift up my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from Yahweh, maker of the heavens and the earth. He does not allow your foot to be moved. He who watches over you does not slumber. See, he who is guarding Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. Yahweh is your guard. Yahweh is your shade at your right hand. The sun does not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. Yahweh guards you from evil. He guards your being. Yahweh guards your going out and your coming in, now and forever. Proverbs 4 on page 732. Children, listen to the discipline of your father, and give attention to understanding. For I gave you good instruction. Do not forsake my Torah. For I was my father's son, tender, and the only one in the eyes of my mother. Then he taught me and said to me, let your heart hold fast my words. Guard my commands and live. Get wisdom, get understanding. Do not forget, and do not turn away from the words of my mouth. Do not leave her, and let her guard you. Love her, and let her watch over you. The beginning of wisdom is get wisdom. And with all you're getting, get understanding. Exalt her, and let her uplift you. She brings you esteem when you embrace her. She gives your head a fair wreath. She shields you with an adoring crown. Hear, my son, and accept my words, and let the years of your life be many. I have taught you in the way of wisdom. I have led you in straight paths. When you walk, your steps shall not be hindered. And if you run, you shall not stumble. Become strong and disciplined. Do not let go. Watch over her, for she is your life. Wisdom. Do not enter the path of the wrong, and do not walk in the way of evildoers. Avoid it. Do not pass by it. Turn away from it and pass on. For they do not sleep unless they have done evil, and their sleep is taken away unless they have made someone fall. For they have eaten the bread of wrongdoing, and they drink the wine of violence. But the path of righteousness is like the light of dawn that shines ever brighter unto the perfect day. The way of the wrong is like darkness. They do not know at what they stumble. My son, listen to my words. Incline your ear to my sayings. Let them not depart from your eyes. Guard them in the midst of your heart, for they are life to those who find them, and healing to all their flesh. Watch over your heart with all diligence, for out of it are the sources of life. Turn away, you a crooked mouth, and put perverse lips far from you. Let your eyes look forward, and your eyelids look straight before you. Consider the path of your feet, and not all your ways are established. Sorry, repeat this. It's 26. Consider the path of your feet, and all your ways are established. Do not turn to the right or to the left. Turn your foot away from evil. Book of Acts, chapter 21, on page 1078. And it came to be, when we had torn ourselves away from them, and had set sail, we ran a straight course, and came to Cos, and the next day to Rhodes, and from there to Patara. And having found a ship passing over to Phoenicia, we went aboard and set sail. And having sighted Cyprus, and having passed on to the left, we sailed to Caesarea, and landed in Sor, for the ship was to unload her cargo there. And having found taught ones, we remained there 7 days. And they told Shaul, through the Spirit, not to go up to Jerusalem. And when it came to be our days there were an end, we left and went on, all of them accompanying us with wives and children, till we were out of the city. And kneeling down at the beach we prayed. And having embraced one another, we boarded the ship, and they returned to their homes. And when we had completed our voyage from shore, we came to Patmos, and having greeted the brothers, we stayed with them one day. And on the next day we left and came to Caesarea, and went to the house of Philip the evangelist, who was one of the 7, and stayed with him. Now this one had 4 maiden daughters who prophesied. And as we were staying many days, a certain prophet named Hagab came down from Judah. And having come to us, he took the girdle of Shaul, bound his own hands and feet, and said, Thus says the set-apart Spirit, thus shall the Judean at Jerusalem bind the man who owns this girdle, and deliver him into the hands of the nations. And when we heard this, both we and those who came from the place begged him not to go up to Jerusalem. And Shaul answered, What do you mean by weeping and breaking my heart? For I am ready not only to be bound, but also to die at Jerusalem for the name of the Master Yeshua. And as he could not be persuaded, we ceased, saying, Let the desire of the Master be done. And after those days, having made ready, we went up to Jerusalem. And also some of the taught ones from Caesarea went with us, and brought with them one, Mnason of Cyprus, an early taught one, with whom we were to lodge. And when we arrived in Jerusalem, the brothers received us gladly. And on the following day, Shaul went with us to see us to James, and all the elders came. And having greeted them, he was relating one by one what Elohim had done among the nations through his service. And when they heard it, they praised the Master. They said to him, You see, brother, how many thousands of the Judean there are who have believed and are ardent for the Torah. But they have been informed about you, that you teach all the Judean who are among the nations who forsake Moshe, saying not to circumcise the children, nor to walk according to the practices. What then is this? They shall certainly hear that you have come. So do this. What we say to you, we have 4 men who have taken a vow, a Nazarene vow. Take them and be cleansed with them, and pay their expenses, so that they shave their heads, and all shall know that what have been informed about you is not so, but what you yourself also walk orderly, keeping the Torah. And concerning the nations who believed, we have written and decided that they should keep themselves from what is offered to idols, and blood, and that is strangled, and whoring. Then Shaul took the men on the next day, and having been cleansed with them, went into the set-apart place to announce the completion of the days of separation, until the offering should be presented for each one of them. And when the 7 days were almost ended, the Judean from Asia, seeing him, having trouble turning the pages. There we go. And 27. And when the 7 days were almost ended, the Judean from Asia, seeing him, Shaul, in the set-apart place, were stirring up all the crowd, and they laid hands on him, crying out, Men of Israel, help! This is the man who is teaching all men everything, everywhere against the people and the Torah and this place. And besides, he also brought Greeks into the set-apart place, and has profaned this set apart place, because they had previously seen Thermopolis the Ephesian with him in a city, whom they thought that Shaul had brought into the set apart place. And the entire city was moved, and the people rushed together, seized Shaul, and dragged him out of the set apart place. And immediately the doors were shut. And while they were seeking to kill him, a report came to the commander of the company of soldiers that all the Jerusalem was in confusion. At once he took soldiers and captains and ran down to them, and they, having seen the commander and the soldiers, stopped beating Shaul. Then the commander came near and took him and commanded him to be bound with 2 chains, and was asking who he was and what he had done. And in the crowd some were shouting this and others that, and they were all and not being able to ascertain the truth because of the uproar, he commanded him to be taken into the barracks. And when he came to the stairs, he had been carried by the soldiers because of the violence from the crowd. For a large number of the people following after, crying out, "Away with him!" And Shaul was about to be led into the barracks. And he said to the commander, "Am I allowed to say somewhat to you?" And he said, "Do you know Greek? Are you not the Mistrite who some time ago stirred up a revolt and led the 4,000 assassins out into the wilderness?" But Shaul replied, "I am a Judite, a Jew from Tarsus in Kilikia, a citizen of no mean city. And I beg you, allow me to speak to the people." And having given him permission, Shaul, standing at the stairs, motioned with his hands to the people. And when there was a great silence, he spoke in the Hebrew language, saying, it ends there. The end of 21. Shalom. Make it a great day. Read your Bible. Talk to the Father.